Hello, welcome. So today I'm going to be answering, the module question on youth culture and diversity. And the question was, how do negative stereotypes and stereotypical representation of youth featured in the film, which the film for me is Mean Girls, and what might be done in schools to prevent such negative representations? So, yeah, we're gonna kind of really concentrate today on the stereotypes that are presented in Mean Girls specifically. Um, and here's the overview of what we're gonna go through, but we're gonna talk labels, we're gonna talk about the different aggressions, the tribes that were in the movies, social influences. I'm going to take a psychological kind of view on all of it. And then we're going to kind of end with a plan. And the plan is kind of like, what do we do next? What do we know now? What can we do in our schools? So let's get started. So, for those that don't know Mean Girls, this is just a quick overview of the film. So, Mean Girls is a film where Caddy, a child of zoologist parents, moved from Africa to America for her high school years. So, as Caddy experiences the public school system for the first time, she bears witness to the cliques, gossip, parties, and school culture. Not knowing the social hierarchy at the school, she finds herself in the popular group known as the Plastics. And she kind of quickly realizes, kind of like the error of her ways. Spoiler alert, sorry. Okay, let's start with the labels. So, first stereotype is literally the opening scene of the movie. Let's take a quick look.
Here, this map is going to be your guide to the store. Now, where you sit in the cafeteria is crucial. You got everybody there. You got your freshmen, ROTC guys, preps, JV jocks, Asian nerds, cool Asians, varsity jocks, unfriendly black hotties, girls who eat their feelings, girls who don't eat anything, desperate wannabes, burnout, sexually active band geeks, the greatest people you will ever meet, and the worst. Beware of the plastic.
All right, so that scene is filled with stereotypes. So, as you heard when Janice was going through the tribes of the school, she goes, the Asian nerds, implying that only Asians can be nerds. And the girls that eat their feelings, well, there's two problems with it that in this stereotype. First, that it's just girls that eat their feelings. And the second is that they're only those that eat their feelings are automatically just fat people. So that was a huge stereotype. And then the last one I kind of want to bring insight to was that when she goes, the black hotties, um, and she kind of attaches the unfriendly black hotties. Like it's the double-edged sword. Like, yeah, you might be good looking, but you're also just unfriendly, and it's why associate the skin color. So those were huge stereotypes in the opening scene, as we can see. Moving on, the plastics. So the ones that we need to avoid. So the plastics kind of have this representation of they are the prettiest and the most popular girls at school. Um, the problem here and the stereotypes that I'm finding here is that there's no cultural diversity in the group. They're all middle to upper middle class white girls that are perfectly perfect, for a lack of a better term. Let's just take a quick look at this scene.
All that is holding you. Look at Karen Smith's gym clothes.
Of course, all the plastics from the same gym class. Where are the plastics?
They're teen royalty. If North Shore was Us Weekly, they would always be on the cover.
That one there, that's Karen Smith. She is one of the dumbest girls you will ever meet. Damien sat next to her in English last year.
She asked me how to spell orange.
The little one? It's Gretchen Wieners.
She's totally rich because her dad invented toaster strudel.
Gretchen Wieners knows everybody's business. She knows everything about everyone.
about her hair is so big. It's secrets.
What's happening? An evil takes a human form in Regina George. I'll be cool. She may seem like your typical selfish, backstabbing, slut-faced hoe bag, but in reality, she's so much more than that.
She's the queen bee, the star. Those other two are just her little workers.
Regina George. How do I even begin to explain Regina George? Regina George is flawless.
She has 2 Fendi purses and a silver Lexus.
I hear her hair is in shirts for $10,000.
I hear she does car commercials in Japan. Her favorite movie is Varsity Blues.
One time she met John Stamos on a plane. He told her she was pretty.
One time, she punched me in the face. It was awesome.
So yeah, going on to the plastics and all these stereotypes that they're the queen bee and they're seen as flawless, as you see, like the classmates and everyone else in the school thinking it. And the fact that kind of the movie flaunts that these are things that can kind of, you can get away with in the high school setting. The interesting thing actually with plastics and this, and I kind of want to take like a bit of a psychological view on this, is kind of like the societal influence. Although they're seen as so perfect, they themselves don't really look at themselves as perfect. Especially in this scene of the movie, as we can see here, as they're going to start going, they start criticizing themselves in front of a mirror.
I've got man shoulders. I used to think there was just fat and skinny. Apparently there's a lot of things that can be wrong with your body.
My hairline is so weird. My pores are huge. My nail beds suck.
I have really bad breath in the morning.
Hey, you guys.
So yeah, so the social construction that no one is without flaw, essentially, even though, like I said before, they're seen as flawless and everything because they're the popular and the pretty girls. But as you saw there, they kind of beat themselves up about all these like little things that they see wrong in themselves. The next is, I really want to draw the stereotypes that they draw between femininity and masculinity. And although I do think that Mean Girls highlights a lot of sexist notions in the film, I really want to draw our scenes to the one scene about mathletes. And essentially, this kind of just saying that girls are not good at math. I'm going to just do the first part. So as we saw there right away, they picked the girl as if like the girl is going to be the worst at math. So yeah, that's just one example highlighted in the film. And then next is the stereotypical feminine aggression. So when you think of females being aggressive, it's all verbal. It's all through gossip and they really did a great job on this 3-way conversation in the film.
Hello? If someone says something bad about you, you want me to tell you, right? No. What if it was someone you thought was your friend? What do you... Hold on, other line. I'm not taking this anymore.
Good for you, Gretch.
Hello?
Let's go out.
Okay, hold on. I'm on the other line with Gretchen.
Don't invite Gretchen. She's driving me nuts.
Hold on.
Okay, hurry up.
It's Regina. She wants to hang out with me tonight, but she told me not to tell you. Do not hang out with her. Why? Oh, you don't want me to tell you. Oh, you can tell me. Hold on. Oh my god, she's so annoying.
Who is?
Who's this? Gretchen? Right. Hold on. Oh my god, she's so annoying.
I know. Just get rid of her.
Okay, what is it? Regina says everyone hates you because you're such a slut. She said that? You didn't hear it from me.
A little harsh,
scratch? Whatever, she has a right to know. I can't go out. I'm sick.
Boo, you whore.
So yeah, as we see there, they just so passive aggressive and kind of like the whole cliques gaining up on the other. It really shows like the female aggression. And the other way it showed it quite well is the burn book. Sorry. I also want to draw our attention to the evolution of Caddy. So as we see here, this is how she started off at the start of the movie, and then when she joins the plastics, she kind of like confines to like what society or what the high school kind of conformed her into this. She even dumbed herself down. Like we knew, I'm not going to play this scene just for the sake of time, but we knew that she was a really great in math, and just to get the attention of the boy that she liked, Aaron, she dumbed herself down to ask him to explain and to even furthermore tutor him just so she can spend time with him, which yeah, is saddening, but kind of a reality. Like I said, I really want to take a social psychology kind of view on this. And the first is denial. So Caddy was in denial not only with who she was becoming, but the influence that Regina had on her. And like we saw through that evolution, she really was in denial about she was in denial about her conformity, essentially. And like she totally conformed. She completely became a plastic so she can join the plastic. And at first it was just kind of to gain insight as she was friends with Janice, but she kind of really became them in all aspects, through physical and like mental. Another thing to note, being pre-service educators for secondary, is that we need to kind of realize that the prefrontal cortex in teenagers is still developing, and the prefrontal cortex is responsible for those executive functions of decision making and planning and social interaction and understanding peers. And I think it really did a good job in Mean Girls, and the highlights that we kind of went over, that we see those exact struggles inside the high school walls. Yes, they're really, really, they're very prominent and Hollywood-esque, but like it still does happen in high school. And I actually have a story that I'll share soon. And another thing I want to talk about is like this is a quote. Social learning theory focuses attention on the ways in which adolescents and parent behaviors are both learned and reinforced, both positively or negatively, by family members and other socializing agents. And you can kind of really see that Caddy was able to snap out of her ways quickly, because as the movie saw, she kind of came from very grounded parents, where Regina had that cool mom and the mom that really just wanted to be the friend and not the parent. So what is our responsibility? And I really think that we need to be in tune as educators, and it's important to know what kids are watching and what they're doing in their times. What is considered cool? And as a matter of fact, speaking of a burn book, this movie came out when I was in junior high, and girls in my junior high created a burn book, and I was actually unfortunately subject into this burn book. Thankfully, I came from very great parents that really dealt with that bullying from me right away. But I think it would have been way more life-changing if our teachers kind of knew that this was what we were all watching, because unfortunately, those girls that wrote the Mean book or the Burn book really thought that they were going to get away with it, just like they kind of got away with it in the movie. But unfortunately, our lives is not a Hollywood film. I kind of come up with prevention, and two of the biggest things I think, especially when it comes to Mean Girls, and what I kind of wish there was more readily during my junior high, was kind of like an anti-bullying. And this is right off, and we know, that there's a whole anti-bullying movement right off the Alberta education, the ATA. And it's school-wide, and it's highly emphasized in the classroom. And as a teacher, I want to make sure that I build a classroom of respect, because if they respect each other in my class, I hope they bring it outside the class. And lastly, girl empowerment, especially in today's era where girls are seen flawless, and Instagram and all of these influences that kind of girls think of what they think beauty is. I think it's really important to have girl empowerment classes. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. And that's kind of the stereotypes in Mean Girls.